Okay, right, that should work. So thank you very much. This is the training session for people to kind of have an introduction to how to use MyCore on the Joy platform. And I'm Helen Sears. I'm one half of Meaningful Measures, and I'm going to run through the training slides now. So hopefully, can you see this on the screen, please? I can't read the chat.
Yes.
So,
Yeah,
so do shout out if you want to ask me questions. So I hope you can see this okay. So this is the introduction to using Measure Yourself Concerns and Wellbeing on the Joy platform.
Sorry, Helen, it's
Hello.
Val here.
Hi, Val.
Hi, I'm just I can see it, but it's very small, so I don't quite know how to. Maybe I need to change my view.
Okay. Anyone else got that problem?
I think, Helen, it's not currently in presentation mode.
Oh, well, it is on my screen, but it's doing what it did to me yesterday. I must have a problem with my machine. I'm very sorry. Can I do it again? And sorry about that. How about this? Can you see this? Can you see this?
Yeah, we can see it, but yeah, it's still just in kind of edit mode. Where we can see your dashboard on the left-hand side. There you go. That's a bit bigger. Yeah, that's better.
Manage, I'm afraid. I think I've got a problem with my computer because it did it yesterday. Anyway, I'm going to crack on. We'll start again if that's all right with everybody. Please do just ask me questions as we go along. So this is the introduction to MyCore on the Joy platform. Training. So these are the learning objectives for today. What is the MyCore tool? What is it all about? And then we've got guidance on how to use the tool in practice. So hopefully that will be useful to you. The what ifs and whys and hows. A little bit on how we share the data back to Meaningful Measures back here, and what you do with the data, why we're collecting the data, what's useful about it, and then we'll look at it on the Joy platform. I hope that's okay. I think I'll run through and I'll explain things, but just before I do start, and I can't see you on the screen, obviously, could anyone indicate if they haven't ever heard of or used MyCore before? Is there anyone here that hasn't? Right, so that indicates to me that you all know MyCore and you have got knowledge of it, but today is all about sort of the background and the more sort of in-depth how to use it. So that's how I'll pitch today. So the tool was devised by us in 2006, and we worked with a GP who's on the screen here, Dr. Charlotte Patterson. She's now retired, and she was an academic at University of Bristol, as was I, and that's how I met her. But we worked in the context of Bristol Cancer Help Centre, which turned into Pennybron UK, and that's how I met Marie Polly, because she was a researcher at Breast Cancer Haven. And all three of us worked together in 2006 and devised and refined the MyCore tool. It's the little sister of MyMop. MyMop was created by Charlotte in 1996, I think. And it's that is a medical symptoms profiles tool. So it asks you about your medical symptoms, whereas MyCore is different because it asks you about your general concerns and is more holistic. So MyCore is really cool because it's a person-centered outcome measure. It aims to capture the most pressing concerns people have. It doesn't just give you a list of things to respond to. We like the tool because it basically puts the person in the driving seat. It makes no assumptions, and the person's data is personalized and unique to them. And it's a nice tool because you can use it as part of a conversation with people, so it's quite human. And it allows people to say what matters to them. And then if you pinpoint those two things that really are a problem for people, you can then allow them to prioritize actions and goals to help them move forwards. We've worked really hard with the tool to validate it against other health-related quality of life measures. We know the scale is in the tool is responsive, which means it's academically sensitive to change. And in 2021, we accredited the tool with NHS England in the context of supported self-management. So we've been working hard. There's many publications for the tool, and it's used all around the world. And people do like it, basically. The tool, if you print it out on paper, looks like this, but obviously it looks a bit different on Joy, which we'll look at later. But this is the concept of the tool, and we've licensed the tool to you guys. And you, in part of that license process, have this paper version. You do have a different paper version that you've created, don't you, Kelly and Adam, which is, what do you call that paper version? I forget the name.
The personalised care and support plan.
So you'll be familiar with the personalised care and support plan. This is just the basic version that we license all around the world. It's just the same concepts. Essentially, within your document, you've got the same components where you get people to write down the top 2 concerns or problems you'd most like to have help with. That's what goes in those rectangle boxes. And then you get people to rate how much those concerns bother them on that 0 to 6 scale, with 0 being not bothers me at all and 6 bothers me greatly. So the lower the number, the better, essentially. And well-being is then rated for the person. How do you rate your general feeling of well-being now? How do you feel in yourself? So it's a short tool, but it's quite cool because it allows you to collect qualitative data, which is the written bit, and the number data, the quantitative data. So you can get people to say really what matters to them, get that really unique data, and then get the quantifying scores in terms of how it bothers them at that time point. And then you can follow them up to see how that changes over time. People like the tool because it's quick and can be part of a conversation, and it flows quite nicely. And we've also enabled the tool to designate who's filling it in, which is those tick boxes at the top. Is it someone doing it themselves, or is it someone doing it with them, like a member of staff? And we also have the tool which designates, you know, if it's online or postal or whatever, but different for your scenarios, I think. So just this is the guidance on the written bit. So this is the sort of message from the training, the take-home message. Please, can you make sure that when you derive those concerns, so you've sat with someone and you've listened to someone, after a bit of time, you don't just go straight in, you know, hello, Mrs. Smith, what's your 2 worries? You have time to talk to them, as I'm sure you do. But when you get to those concerns, please do write down, or enable them to write down in their own words, verbatim, what their concern is. So I have trouble getting to the shops because of my bad leg, or I'm really worried about being able to pay the bills. Please don't just write down one word like smoking or heart problems, or, you know, don't just summarize it for them, because the whole beauty of the tool is that it's about what the person is saying matters to them. So that's one of the take-home messages from today, please. We also allow it so that a member of staff or a carer can enable the person's concerns to be formulated if necessary on their behalf. And if that happens, you can indicate on the form if that's happened. Because sometimes people are very vulnerable and maybe their language isn't great, maybe English isn't their first language, for example. We only would like 1 concern per box, please, because you don't want to be conflating lots of things in these concern boxes, and it is just 2 concerns overall. So you have to boil down people's complex situations. We've all got lots and lots of concerns, haven't we? But you have to ask people, what are your top 2? Put 1 in the first box and 1 in the second box. Sometimes people don't have a second concern. It could just be the 1. That's fine. Just 1 concern in the first box is fine. I hope that's okay with people. The number bit. So when you're using it digitally on Joy, so then you will only be able to select 1 number, of course, because that's digital. But if it's on the paper form, avoid people going, oh, it's between a 3 and a 4, I'm not quite sure. Get them to select 1 number, please. And if they can't decide, just say, well, what's the worst case situation? Oh, well, so it's a 4 if they can't decide between a 3 and a 4. Because it's difficult to then interpret the scores if people have sort of circled between the two. You want to keep it simple when the person doing the data input happens. So the message on this 0 to 6 scale is, so you haven't got defining of what a 2 and a 4 is or a 5 is polar ends of the scale. So a 0 is not bothering me at all and 6 is bothers me greatly. And it's all interpreted by the person in their own context. So we know that this 0 to 6 scale is sensitive, and whatever people interpret as a 1 or a 5 is what matters to them and is meaningful. We know it's sensitive, so just let them interpret on this sliding scale. And the concerns and well-being are equally selected like that. So I've shown you the first MyCore. This is the follow-up MyCore. Now, I know this is small on the screen, but this is just so you can get the concept of what's in there. On the follow-up MyCore, essentially, the person is re-shown the original concerns in those rectangles. So you either, on paper, you're saying, oh, Mrs. Smith, this is what you said to us the first time. Have a look. How is it now? How would you score those concerns and your well-being now, today? So you just get that number score at that follow-up point. In the JOY system, those concerns from the first time will be available to look at that second or follow-up point. So people can reflect on what they said to you that initial time. They don't look at their original scores, so that doesn't need to be shown. It's just the written bit. How is it now? How is that concern now? How is your well-being now? And then there are 2 optional follow-up questions, which I'll show you on the next slide. But they are optional, those sort of rectangles on that form there. So follow-up is quick and simple because you're just basically saying, how's it going now? And you can track the number scores change over time. That's the whole point of it. There are the 2 extra questions at the end. One is really interesting. What other things are affecting your health? This is a really interesting question because just those specific 2 concerns are, unique things for that person, but there could be wider context things impacting. Maybe those concerns haven't been shifted. Maybe life is really hard in a big general sense for people. Or maybe things have got better. You never know. So, people typically write things in these boxes like, I'm bereaved, or I've lost my job, or other family issues. This gives a really interesting wider context and is really useful for looking at the data, because potentially the score changes may not have gone in the right direction for some people. Our research has shown that if there are negative things affecting people's health written in the boxes, that can explain when score changes don't go in the direction that you'd wish for people. And then lastly, got a really nice question. What's been most important for you? Reflecting on your time with us, what was the most important aspects for you? And this is a lovely bit of feedback question where people can say, I really, Jenny, she was really kind to me. She really listened to what I needed help with, and I really appreciate it. And you can get a lot of really useful feedback on people's experience of your service and learning there. Sometimes people can write things to improve as well there. But what we generally find is that people just write about the excellent qualities of the service and the compassion they've received here. So that's the tool. That's the first and the follow-up tool. And I know you've all seen it before, but it just sets it down in terms of the training today. Now, the guidance on using the tool. So this is where, if you've got any questions or thoughts, I'm very open to if you've got the kind of what do I do sort of questions, but I'll just go through the general views that we always present in this training. So this is about the time points to administer MyCore. So we always think that you shouldn't just go cold into doing MyCore straight away. Concerns should be gathered at the end of that first session with the person when you've got to know them. And but you could equally, other services do send MyCore before their appointment or whilst people are waiting. But from talking to Kelly and Adam, we've sort of derived that it is part of the initial home visit for the personalised support plan being formulated. That's when the MyCore will happen. I realise there are colleagues here from other parts of Cambridge. I hope that I'm saying the right thing here in terms of the first MyCore. If anyone wants to disagree.
No, it's Rachel from East.
Hi, Rachel.
Very, very much the same.
Cool.
In terms of our approach there.
So yeah, great. So you get to know someone, you listen to them, and then as part of that initial consultation that you do, I hope that you feel that the MyCore just flows into that sort of, okay, so we've had a chat. These are your top, what do you think, your top 2 concerns are. So the follow-up, when you go back and get that second or subsequent time, at this point, we always say, it's unique to your service, and it's how long you think before a change is likely to have happened. So you agree these time points across your team and be consistent. And that's part of the training, really, to make that explicit. Now, talking to Kelly and Adam, they've said to me that they feel that the second MyCore, the follow-up one, should be done at discharge point. And they are currently thinking about whether you can do subsequent more follow-up MyCores, maybe at 3 and 6 months. So they will be more clear with you down the line. But at the moment, the guidance I'm hearing is that it's discharge. Rachel, Kelly and Adam, do you want to add any more? Rachel, is it the same in your patch? Kelly and Adam, do you want to add any more?
I can come in just to explain from an East perspective, if that's helpful.
Yeah.
Probably at the moment we're less defined by kind of standard timeframes. We're sort of putting that in the hands of who's supporting the individual to complete the personalised care and support plan, and what you've said in terms of revisiting MyCore when you feel that change has happened, or that plan. So, and because of that could be 6 weeks or it could be a few months. So at the moment, we aren't necessarily, defined by and discharge, because of the nature of the people that we're supporting. Sometimes actually there are additional concerns thereafter that mean that we can't formally discharge per se. It might be that you start the MyCore process again for another concern, but we're capturing the initial concerns on referral into the project from an East perspective. So this is possibly slightly different, but I'll let Kelly and Adam come in from.
I think Kelly and Adam might be in agreeing on those lines, because that's what we've also discussed, isn't it?
Yeah, we have discussed that. I think in terms of for city colleagues, so we're asking for that second MyCore score to be captured when you are at the point of discharge. However, that may, like Rachel has just said, there may have been something that's happened in someone's life where you may need to, where the scores are negative and concerns may have changed, so you may not then actually be discharging them. You may continue to see them for a period of time. But I think as part of, to make sure that to try and embed that capturing of the second MyCore score within the process in the city, at the point of discharge, we're trying to embed that so it's captured at that point, with a view to potentially going back and reviewing that in 3 or 6 months as well. But that's something as an integrated neighbourhood team we can talk about.
Fine, that's good. But the message from us always is, you make a choice of what you want to do. We don't dictate. You just agree it across your team and be consistent. So it's an evolving thing. This is an implementation of the tool. You're learning as you're going, and as you move forwards, you will get into a good process with this. But that's the general guidance there. Now, just moving on, I have, as part of the license package, you can't read these on the screen and I don't expect you to, but I've sent 2 documents, which is what these rectangles represent, which are just here to support you, that Kelly has and the project team have and can disseminate. One is a bit of a backup script if you want to use it for MyCore. If you have a mental block, I just can't remember. there is a bit of a script for you to rely on. And then also we've got some guidance for working with vulnerable or older people with MyCore, which I'm going to go through a slide here now. And this we've derived when we worked with a project in Gloucestershire, a frailty project. And they helped us, a team of frailty matrons helped us develop this guidance, because it's not correct to just expect everybody to be able to fill in outcome measures all the same. So there's a bit of humanity coming in, really. So not everyone can provide answers. If you're in that situation, you can use the proxy situation. So yourself or a carer helping to derive those concerns on behalf of the person, but you have to then state that on the form. Ideally, though, the person themselves would be the one providing the information. I'm really worried about whatever. But we recognise in some situations, it's really not appropriate to collect any sort of outcome data from people, because it's just impossible due to the cognitive situation, or just it's a really difficult, stressful environment, and the person is just unable to. In these situations, we respect your professional judgment. We do think it's good practice to record why MyCore was not completed, and you can do that in the text box on the form, actually. So it can be seen and on the system, and it's not like you just missed it out. So that's all the guidance on MyCore. It's quite basic stuff, but it's just useful to say. If anyone's got any questions or worries, any of the people on the call, you're welcome to say. Okay, all right. So I'll take the stunned silence and carry on. Hope you're still with me. So I'll just talk about the data share and the use of the data on MyCore, so you can just get a flavour of what we at Meaningful Measures are doing and why we're licensing the tool. You guys do have a consent in the process of people coming to you, which is similar to this, in that you are saying that the MyCore data will be anonymised and shared back to Meaningful Measures for us to use, so people can consent or not to that. That's just the statement that we give to organisations. The reason why we ask for data share back to Meaningful Measures, we have a policy, it's on our website. These slides will be sent to you. If you're interested to look at it, you're very welcome to click on that link. That's our policy. The reason why we ask is only anonymised data, and only one designated member of staff from your organisation talks to us about this. So you don't all have to think about this. And in fact, if you're using it on Joy, we can download the data via Joy and show you how to do that. So it's not for everyone to do this, it's just so that you're aware of what's happening. The reason why we ask for the anonymised data back is that Meaningful Measures derives coding guidelines for the worries that people write down. And this is a research tool that's based on thousands of people's worries, written worries, and we are able to refine and derive these patterns in people's worries by using this anonymized data. And we have thousands and thousands of data points and people working on refining these coding sets. And we publish papers and work to push forward the research so that we can map people's worries essentially in different contexts. We've got one for personalized care, which is relevant to you guys. You have that coding framework. But what we intend to do is refine it and develop these over the years in the future. And that's why we want the data. So what you can do with the data using our coding framework is someone in your team that we can enable to do this, someone in the business intelligence team, someone like, I don't know, Kelly or Adam or whoever else, can actually get that coding framework and work out all the patterns and be able to give global sort of broad understanding of these are the types of concerns people are expressing to us. So you can plot them as frequencies and say, you know, nearly half of the people are coming to us with psychological, emotional concerns. This is just pretend data. And then we have ways of breaking down those concerns into specific types like sleep, anxiety, depression, lots of different things in the different categories. In the physical one, it could be physical health issues. In the practical ones, it could be more like work and money issues. So we've got lots of ways of breaking down the data to present it back, that you can look at it and understand why people are needing help. Are there things that people are saying that they need help with that you don't currently know how to help with? And there are things that are coming up that you're having gaps, and you need to fill them maybe with different services or different training or different support to your teams to enable that support. You know, we saw COVID and cost of living concerns spring up in our data sets, and things change all the time. Also, if you can track and work out the main concerns, maybe there are other outcome measures that you want to pair with MyCore. Maybe people are expressing they're very lonely, etc. You can then add other outcome measures to drill down into more detailed clinical aspects of things. So it's just a fact-finding thing. And then the number data, this is not for now to dwell on hugely, but just to show you this is a sort of number data you can get out of MyCore, showing that concerns hopefully reduce for your clients, and their well-being hopefully improves as well by the reduction in score. And you can do really nice sort of working out the average concerns for the data and the well-being scores. And you can even create a profile of all of the scores. And you can present the average and the standard deviation and do stats tests, and even work out the percentage of people that you've made a improvement to across the pot of data. Because a 1-point change on that 0 to 6 scale indicates a clinically relevant improvement. So you can work out the percentage of people you're doing that for. So that's why we collect that number data. It's quite powerful. So in total, just to sort of finish off why you should use this tool, it is a nice tool because it's person-centered, as is social prescribing. You get that really nice written, what people actually say they need help with. That's there for you. The data also allows you to then say, is our service fully responsive to the user's needs? Are there things that people are telling us they need help with that we didn't even know? Should we therefore flex to meet those needs and change? And then lastly, the MyCore gives you really nice data, the written and the number data. So it writes nice reports. It allows you to use the quotes to like give examples of people's issues as long as they're anonymized, and you get that nice quantitative data that clinicians and boards like to read and see. So I hope that's okay, and I hope you feel that it's useful information about MyCore there. What we're going to do now is we're going to just look at it, how it appears on Joy, because this is the new bit for you guys, I guess. Has everyone got access to Joy, or is anyone that hasn't?
I think everyone should have access,
Good.
Helen, as far as I'm aware.
Good. So, but I guess it's quite a new thing for you guys to see MyCore on there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you from my perspective how it looks and the screenshots of how it looks. And then I'm going to hand over to Ryan for a little bit of a live demo, and you can ask practical questions there. So I am not an expert on Joy, I'm an expert on MyCore. So between us, Ryan and I will sort this out. So as I understand it, you go into the MyCore system and you can set up a client. You can put the person in details in that you'd like to complete an assessment form, and you click on the Wellbeing tab and you select Add MyCore. They call it the Wellbeing Framework. That's not its correct name, actually, it's just MyCore, but it's okay. I think they thought about the coding framework there, that's why they've called it that. But so you select Add MyCore, and then you can select how you're actually in contact with someone. Is it done online? Have you sent it as an email to someone? Or is it with the text to the client? So you can sort of designate that, and you can save that. And then you get the person to complete the assessment, as I've explained in the earlier training, in that way. You can either do it via email or text or online, and the data goes in the Joy system. this, apologies, I took a screenshot from a video to do this. This is how it looks on the Joy system. Ryan will show in a minute. Essentially, it's that 2 top concerns. So people write them in, and then underneath that, those concerns, I've clipped the first concern box off this one, haven't I? So it's the top concern 1, they write that in, and then they select their number with, as I've shown you, the 0 being not bothering them at all and 6 bothers them greatly. They write in their second concern, select a number, well-being, select a number. The example here only has 1 word written in the box. It just has health written in there. That isn't what I would suggest. I would suggest it would be a proper statement, but I think that's because it's a demo. It's only got 1 word. Then you select save once the assessment's complete, and you have it on the system. And then once the patient's completed the assessment in person or email, it'll be automatically updated, and that's their baseline score. To send a follow-up MyCore in the system, I understand you go into the MyCore and you select track. The questionnaire will pop up again. It will have the initial concerns pre-populated in there. I couldn't get it on a screenshot, apologies, but it'll look like the initial MyCore just with the issues written in the boxes for people then to rate against for that second follow-up time. And then those extra optional open text questions will be there, other things affecting your health and what's been most important for you, that will be there. So that's that. You save those data, and then you can see there's a little tracker on Joy which shows baseline versus follow-up, the overall change for that individual. This person's gone down by -3 for all of their scores. But Ryan will show us more on the live version. So I have in these slides an embedded Loom video of a run through of MyCore on Joy, which if you click on that link, you can watch as well at your leisure. And then there are slides on the Joy website, which basically run through how all of those stages I've just explained work. So that's a bit of extra for you there. So at that point, I hope that's okay. I'm going to segue to Ryan, if that's all right.
Hi, everybody. I'm just going to share my screen. Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And
cool.
Let me know if you can see my screen, everybody.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So hi, everybody. I'm Ryan. I'm new to Joy, so I'll probably be speaking to you guys across the next few weeks. I head up the customer success team, and I'm really, really hoping that you guys are enjoying using Joy. But any feedback, do ping me an email. I'm very, very keen to sort of hear live feedback from customers and end users. I'm going to be giving you a live demo of how to access the MyCore framework from within the Joy platform. So under the Clients tab, you will select the patient that you'd like to complete the MyCore for. So I'm going to select on Snow, who's our demo patient, and then head over to the Wellbeing tab, which is found here. Once you've selected the Wellbeing tab, you can see that MyCore has popped up on the right-hand side here. Because MyCore has been enabled. Click on the Create tab, or you can also click on Add to select the framework you would like to use today. So in this example, we're going to use the MyCore framework, but you can also send it as an email to the client to fill out, or a text to the client to fill out as well. So you don't have to do it there and then as well. If there's any questions, just please feel free to sort of ping me as I'm talking. So once you select the framework, if you scroll down, you can fill the concern problem very similar to the messaging that we've seen today. So you can enter your first concern or problem. For the sake of today, I'm going to just put test, but keep it as detailed and thorough as possible. And then select how severe the concern or problem is. So 0 being not bothering the client at all, and 6 being that it bothers them greatly. And then if they have a second concern or problem, you can enter that here. You don't have to, but you have got the option to do so if that's what you wish to do. And then also rate their well-being as to where it stands currently during your conversation or meeting. and then just head over and click save. Cool. So once you've clicked save, you can now see your wellbeing tracker on the right hand side here. And you can track this information. So if I'm in a meeting with a patient again in a few weeks, I might ask them how their concern or problem has improved, and just click on track to do so. When you click track, it will open up and you can then adjust your score based on the similar questions that we've asked previously based on the concerns that they've raised. So I'll ask again the same wellbeing question, and there are 2 more questions, so I'll score them. And then there are 2 more questions here that you can also populate to give you a more of a contextual view on the patient. So other things that are affecting their health and what has been most important for you. So reflecting on the time, etc. I'm just going to fill this out really quickly. Once you've done that and you filled out, just press save. And that will now be able to show you the improvements and track your full interaction with the patient under this tab. Obviously, I've gone with a baseline score, so you can't see that there's any changes in the score. But when there's changes, it will populate here as the screenshot showed you. And sorry, I think someone's maybe asked something. I had a ping go off, but I can't see my screen.
Hi, it's just me. Just to come in quickly there, please, Ryan. So it tracks as a all together, does it, or does it track each? You know, like if we've got 2 concerns, does it track them separately? I mean, how does it? Does it sort of?
Yeah, got it. So it will track all together. It doesn't segment right now between the 2 problems.
Right,
We are looking to change this tile. So it shows you, it splits it into 2 views between the 2 problems. That should hopefully be coming out next month. But as of now, it's all in 1 view.
Okay, because we're going to get, you know, sometimes people are not feeling better because they're worrying about their second thing, aren't they? You know, that's very hard to. To separate maybe.
Cool. If you have specific questions around how you guys are using it within Joy and feedback on that, if you can just ping me an email, I'll be very happy to have that conversation with you and get the action for you.
Ryan, I just have a question, if that's okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Just looking, obviously, to put in to collect the second MyCourse score, you had the little button up on the top right there to say track. But for example, if we wanted to go back in 3 months' time and collect a third post MyCourse score, for example, or 3 months and 6 months post MyCourse score, is that possible? Because I can see that track tab isn't there.
Yes. So very, very good feedback. We've already had this feedback and it is being implemented. So I think middle of August, the button should now appear as a regular button. So if you, in 3 months' time and 6 months' time, that button should always appear for you to be able to track continuously. But I will definitely feed that back again to sort of make them hurry up even more, our dev team.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, please. I've got a question, but actually, can I ask for a bit of clarification, because I'm not sure I completely followed the plot then. So with the 2 problems that are being tracked, it does look like there are separate trackings, different scoring, that you're tracking them separately. Did I just misunderstand that they're lumped together? I got a bit confused.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they are separate. They are separate, Ryan, and it is correct that what's on the screen there. I think what's just not present on the screen is the actual written concerns. It's just not there. Maybe that's what we're mixing up in our minds, but they are, as Alex has just said, they are. Concern 1 is there, and concern 2 is there, and well-being is there. So it is separate. It's okay. But that's just for the individual.
So if one thing really improved and another thing didn't, you could still tell, couldn't you? Yeah. And what was Kelly saying about not being able to do more than one follow-up track? So
there should be a little button that allows you to go track again once you've done that follow, but that's not there yet. And Ryan said that Joy are going to implement that middle of August. That button will then appear.
Yep. And I think I discovered that you can change the date on when you add the tracker as well, because if you did a MyCore but you didn't have time to load it on the system, say you're doing it in paper version, or I'm thinking about where we've got our colleagues in Care Network who may be not having access to Joy and they're sending them to us, you can sort of backdate when you did it. You can say it was done 2 weeks ago, you can change the date. Otherwise, if you were doing the beginning and the end, loading them up at the same time, maybe when we've got our plan from Care Network, it looks like, you know, you might have done, and there's been a change in no time elapsed. So is that okay that we can choose the date?
It's all right with me, Ryan. Is it all right with you?
Yeah, absolutely. That's there to give you flexibility.
Okay, because it might actually, when you're putting them on, might not reflect when they were actually done with the,
Please do the date when it was filled out by the
yeah.
person. I can see Rachel Northfield's got her hand up.
Yeah, it's just again, so a hypothetical situation that you have completed a MyCore in relation to 2 problems, and then you've got that kind of completed set because change has been made to address those concerns. Would you then be able to create a whole new MyCore for 2 separate problems? I
believe so, Ryan. That's the question. It's like you create a new case, as it were, for the person. Ryan, is
that's correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you just head over the Create tab and fill out the MyCore framework again. Just going back to the 2 problems question that you guys had. So you can see both problems here, but the new view that'll be generated in a couple of weeks will segment the 2 problems together. So it's not lumped in one card, so it's not overwhelming with information, and you can click into both problems separately. Whereas right now you can't exactly click into each problem. You will be able to. So it's just a bit more functionality for everybody, and that's going to be there in a few weeks.
I got a question, Ryan, if you don't mind, and maybe I should have asked this before we did training today, but I understand that that's for the individual, but once the project's got data for lots of people, is there a main dashboard that shows the MyCore data? Yeah. I think that would be useful to look at if unless you want to show us more on this side of things.
No, I was just going to move on to that post questions.
Thank you. I didn't do that.
No worries, all good. So if you head over to the dashboards, you'll be able to see obviously stats. This is having an overhaul as well, which I think some of you guys are aware of. But if you click on download, you'll be able to get your full MyCore data through this button here, very, very simply. But if you didn't want to download it as a CSV, you can also head over to outcomes, and you'll be able to scroll down until you see the MyCore tab. There we go, and you will be able to see the data here as well, and the scores and the baselines of those scores and them changing. This will look a bit different once the dashboard, the beta version of the new dashboards come out. But I will send out a Loom and a video to everybody once the new tiles are uploaded, so you guys are sort of have that knowledge. I think someone's asking a question.
Yeah, that's me. Another question. Just thinking about that data collection. So is that what data can somebody extract, I guess is my question.
So you can extract everything from your MyCore report. So in the CSV, obviously here is condensed, but in the CSV, you'll be able to get everything. So everything that you've inputted into MyCore through Joy, you'll be able to download.
So is that everything that a social prescriber has inputted for their caseload, or is that broader than that?
So on
your the data for the PCN, for example, because I think.
Yeah, so for example, you would be able to get data for your PCN, but a social prescriber would only be able to have access to within their caseload.
Okay, thank you.
And can I just add one thing about downloading CSVs, just to make people aware? This is just basic stuff, that it will go to your downloads on your laptop, and CSVs can't be password protected. You have to convert them to Excel files to put a password on them. So CSVs with your client data going into your downloads onto your computer, that is potential for data breach. So you need to get it out of the download, and you need to convert it to, this is, what I do, convert to Excel, put a password on it and save it in the appropriate place according to your systems. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kelly, or anyone with the way you work, but that is an issue that you will have your client data with potentially identifiable stuff going into a download with no password protect. So you need to not have it flapping around. Kelly? Or
Yes,
Ryan?
yeah. I agree, and I think so. The other option that you've just mentioned, would that be a better option, a safer option? So when so when you said scroll down.
Yeah. Yes and no. So it doesn't give you the full, it doesn't break down all of your case load, it gives you more of a summary. And we have had feedback around the CSV file. So we are looking to whether it can just automatically become an Excel from the moment you download it and not CSV. So we are looking into that. But this only gives you a very broken down view at the moment.
Okay.
Just to give you some context, we are looking to add sort of more filter options up above here, so you'll be able to really filter and maybe create a separate dashboard just for my core, so you'll be able to see all your outcomes in a line by line sort of view. But I can't comment on that just yet as to when that'll be released. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So just if anyone is going to download the CSV, just be mindful and do it within accordance within your own practices, IG guidelines.
I do have basics that we use for our own digital portal, Kelly, because we have the same issue, and I have got a bit of a guidance on that. If you'd like me to send that to you,
yes,
you
please,
can just,
Helen.
it's exactly the same. So it's just,
okay.
I worry, these are the sort of things that I worry about, because data breaches are major problems for organisations, especially the NHS. We don't want it, and we have to be just mindful, don't we? So that's what, it's good to come together and do this training together, isn't it?
Yeah, if you could share that, that'd be great, and I'd disseminate that with everybody.
But thank you so much, Ryan. Is there more?
Rachel, that's all question. I don't know if she still wants to ask or not.
No, you answered it in terms of some guidance, but I suppose in terms of the people that are on the call at the moment, and I definitely don't want to speak for others, but it feels like that outcomes tab would be helpful for the individual, just to look at kind of overall performance in a general sense. But the CSV stuff feels as if that's more appropriate for Kelly, Adam and I to consider and manage. And then obviously that, I think, just enables kind of safety of data management. So maybe it's just sort of highlighting that on the call, that probably the outcomes data is what's going to be helpful for individuals, but from a project evaluation perspective, then we'll worry about the CSV.
Yes, I agree. Adam had his hand raised, I think.
Thanks, Helen. Yeah, it was just to echo what you've said, Rachel, for everyone on the call. Try, I guess, at this stage, try not to get too bogged down with all of the data and the exporting of information in a CSV. That's what our team is here to help support you with. I guess in the context of this training, we want the quality of the MyCore as a tool to be its maximum benefit that you've been presented with here today. So I guess opening up to the floor for everyone here, is everyone both happy, comfortable and confident with what they've seen today? But also I just noticed that earlier on, Simon, you put a message in the chat because Carol sat with you today, not to put anyone on the spot, but can you just ask, is Carol happy with what she's seen here today? Is there anything you're able to support her with afterwards, or if there's any follow-up, just to say that, you're comfortable with who you would need to contact to support Carol?
Can I just jump in there as well? Carol doesn't have a login for MyCore yet on Joy.
Oh.
Because she's new staff.
Okay.
Excellent. Thanks, Simon.
All right, Ryan.
Hi, sorry, just a quick one. I do have to shoot. I've got another call, but I just want to say, if there's any questions about MyCore and Joy, please just ping me an email, or any feedback you guys have on Joy as a whole. That'd be really useful for someone who's a newbie into the team and trying to sort of segment sort of what we need to improve. So that'd be awesome. And any questions and things like that, then do ping me. I know that Helen will send out the Loom video, so you'll be able to watch the training back, but you can also watch that Loom video that sort of takes you through MyCore on Joy specifically.
Yeah.
Can you drop your email address in the chat, Ryan? That would be helpful, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the meantime, just as we're finishing off, if anyone's got any questions that, you know, no matter how, if you think they're inconsequential or even silly, I'm really here to help anyone. Don't just sit on a worry with it. I hope you're feeling like you can see a point to doing this and you kind of want to use the tool, but do ask a question now if you want. Or you're all melting your end and you've had enough. You need to go and have a lie down. Oh, there we go. So I mean, I think by the looks of it, people are happy to get on with it and have a go. We know that social prescribers do like using this tool. Sometimes if you're sending an email out to try and get the follow-up, and getting the follow-up data from people can be a challenge. That's what we've seen in other projects. With that, you have to be persistent and a few phone calls, a few sort of prompts for people. Eventually you do have to say, okay, we won't get the follow-up data from everyone. You have to resign yourself to that. You know, if you manage to get 67%, 60 to 70% of follow-up data, that's good, you know. So you won't get it from everyone, especially with people with complex lives. But hopefully, even if you get that first call where you get people to tell you what matters to them, that's really useful data because you're listening to someone, and that's very respectful to them as well. So it's useful to map that out. And hopefully, down the line, the data gathered from this will allow your great work to be shown and the progress you help people make to be shown as well. So that's everything from me. And we're here to support you, and I know Joy will support you as well. And we'll do more of these training courses with different cohorts. So if that's all right, Kelly and Adam and everybody, I'll stop the recording.
Brilliant. Thank you, Helen.
There we go. Right. So